Joining us now is Dr. Joseph Vukov, the author of Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence and an associate professor of philosophy at Loyola University in Chicago. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Maybe if you just start off, if you could, just tell us a little bit about artificial intelligence. A lot of people define it differently, but how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think the way to understand artificial intelligence is that it's a computer program, or sometimes we call it a model, that's capable of making predictions. And the way that it makes predictions is that it looks at really big sets of data and it identifies patterns in those data and then makes predictions based on the patterns. So here's an example that I think all of us are familiar with. If you're like me, you probably spend a little bit too much time on Amazon. I like buying books, and you're clicking on books, or maybe you're looking for a new pair of boots or whatever. And you click around for a while, and then pretty soon you get this little bubble that says recommended items. And you notice that the more you click, the more that those recommended items get better and better. And pretty soon you think that that is the book I want to read next. That are the pair of boots that I really want to buy. And what's happening there? Well, it's not that there's some unpaid intern somewhere who's combing through all your clicks and trying to figure out what you might want to buy next. It's that there's an artificial intelligence which is picking up on patterns in what you've been looking for and then making predictions based on those patterns. Now, of course, it gets more complicated when we look at things like ChatGPT, which has been all over the news for the last couple of years. But essentially, it's working the same way. It's taking giant amounts of text. It's identifying patterns in those texts. So all this poetry and essays and news articles. And then when you ask it a question, it's looking at the patterns in that text and making predictions and formulating response based on those patterns that it's identified.
I'm not sure how close that is to thinking, but maybe you can explain that. But another question that I need to ask you before the show, Doctor, we were talking about how the bishops have a great and cautious curiosity about artificial intelligence. What are some special considerations that Catholics should have when discussing or using AI?
I think one thing that we need to pay careful attention to is what we're using it for. What are the goals that it's ultimately serving? A lot of times artificial intelligence and other new technologies are deployed primarily for the sake of things like efficiency and profit. And of course, those are fine goals to pursue. But I think that a problem comes in is when we allow efficiency and profit to take precedence over more human and relational values. So this comes into conversation. People are talking a lot now about if AI is going to take over certain jobs. That's a classic example of profit taking precedence over a more human value. But I think it comes into our own personal usage of this as well. So just one quick example is that you might get a present from your mom or from grandma, 20 bucks in the mail, and you think, it would be more efficient if I just use an AI to write the thank you note back to grandma or back to mom. And you know what? If you're a bad thank you note writer, it actually might be even better. But what are you doing if you use the AI to do that? You're using the efficiency of the technology and you're allowing it to erode that relationship that you have with mom and grandma. So I think the thing that I always push Catholics towards is to really thinking through what are the values that we're pursuing in adopting AI or other new technologies? And are those values ones that are commensurate with the values that we hold as Catholics?
And continuing on that theme as well, in your book, you talk about the importance of realizing that as we're human, we're both body and soul, and why it's important to think about that in the discussion about AI.
Yeah, I think one thing that's distinctive about AI that wasn't true for previous technologies is that when we use it, it seems uncannily human at times. It can write a poem at the blink of an eye. And that seems to be like something that only human beings could do just 10, 15 years ago. So I think that one thing AI pushes us to reflect on is, well, what is it that makes us a human being? And how, if at all, are we different than these machines that we've created? And here's where I think that the Catholic tradition provides us with a really clear and I think helpful answer. We are, according to the Catechism, both body and soul together, right? We're both of those things. We're a combination of body and soul. And I think as soon as you have that as a framework, it starts to become really clear why AI is not something actually human-like. In the first place, it doesn't have a soul. And I think it's in a way, there's pretty obvious that there's no soul there. But maybe even more obviously, it doesn't have a body. Or if it does have a body, it's a body located on a server somewhere. It's nothing like the human body that I have. So I think that this idea that humans are body and soul together is a really helpful one in this conversation we're having about the nature of AI. Is it intelligent? Is it a human? Could it ever be sentient or conscious? We'll insert that idea of the human being body and soul, and I think we have a really good template for thinking through these questions really clearly.
So, Dr. Vukov, having written a book, Staying Human in an Era of Artificial Intelligence, would you say you're pro-AI, anti-AI, or somewhere floating around in the middle?
I'm probably floating somewhere in the middle, but maybe leaning a little towards the anti-AI end of things. I'm not totally on that end because I think there are good uses of artificial intelligence. And this is, I'm taking a cue here from the Holy Father. In some of the addresses and writings that he's done on AI, he will talk about AI being helpful for taking some of the sort of tediousness out of 21st century life. It can be a helpful tool. But at the same time, I think that AI has a real capacity for causing ethical and moral problems. I think there can be problems with the way it's developed, with transparency and privacy, problems in the way that it's deployed. It can be subject to producing misinformation. It can be subject to biases. But I also think that it can raise real issues on the personal level. When we use AI to replace distinctively human tasks, I think that that inevitably erodes our own humanity and agency in the world. So I'm not completely anti-AI, but I am AI cautious, you could say.
The jury is still out.
Jury's still out.
Yeah. And, at this time, the church has no, as far as I know, official teaching on artificial intelligence. So do you think there's a need for a teaching, a longer document, say from the Holy See, from the Vatican, or from the bishops in the United States about AI and about all of its implications?
I think so. I think we need to do a little bit of the wait and see. It's new. I think we need to do some thinking as a church, as scholars, as church leadership, sort of what is this thing? How should we respond? Pope Francis has obviously already started doing this. There's been a number of addresses he's given in the last couple of years that have touched explicitly on AI. But I hope that if not the immediate future, in the near or medium term future, that the church does weigh in on this, because I think it's a huge issue on the both personal and social level, and something that we have a lot to say about as a church.
Well, in any case, we need to stay human in an area of artificial intelligence. In fact, you have a book entitled by those very words. Where can people get a copy of Staying Human and learn a little bit more about this developing situation?
It's published by New City Press, so you can find it at New City Press's website, but you can also find it wherever books are sold.
Fantastic. Well, Doctor, it's been great to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time. And from all of us here at Catholic TV, wish you a very happy and warm and joyous Thanksgiving Day.
Thank you so much, Bishop. Same to you.
All right. God bless you.